now to take you through the front pages of the papers. Here with me to review them are the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, and the journalist and author Gemma Forte. So a very good morning to both of you. Lovely to see you this morning. Lots of different stories around this morning, so let's get stuck into a few of them. You picked out, Dawn, the Star this morning, and a return of a lettuce onto the front page of the Star for a different reason.
Yeah, good morning, Anna. As you say, lots of stories around, and a lot of them serious, but I thought I'd go in with some fun, although it's actually a serious story. But we all remember that the Daily Star's brilliant tabloid son of our seeing who would last longer, our former Prime Minister, Liz Truss, or a wet lettuce. And the lettuce did last longer than Liz Truss. It was a great stunt. It's been picked up globally, and it's also been followed up now by a Twitter employee called Xion Han. He's a writer and a programmer for Twitter, and he is now comparing his job prospects working under Elon Musk's Twitter to that of the lettuce, which is still going strong, by the way. And he's saying, who's going to last longer, me or the lettuce? Now, basically, the hard bit of the story, Anna, is the fact that Elon Musk took over Twitter last month now, wasn't it? He paid £40 billion for it. Twitter currently loses $4 million a day, though. So Elon, who is the world's richest man, has said that he has to at least half the workforce of 7,500 and potentially get it down to 2,000 employees to make the company profitable and to make some money. So a lot of Twitter employees were literally locked out of their offices yesterday. They've had their Twitter email accounts frozen, and a lot of them have no clue as to whether they will still be employed next week, literally. So this is part of all the changes that Elon Musk wants to make to Twitter. Already been discussed, the fact that the blue ticket verified users might be charged $8 a month for having that, which Stephen King's response was not repeatable on a family TV show. So it's all sorts of changes going on with Twitter at the moment. But it is, as I said, it's a fun story, and Elon Musk himself did say the original Liz Truss versus lettuce thing, that it was a top troll, as he put it. So the fact that one of his own employees is now doing it, we'll see what his reaction is. He's been quite quiet on that one so far.
Yeah, and still so many questions, not just for the employees. Some of them talked about just seeing the software wiped from their work laptop while they were looking at it, and no access, as you say, to their emails, and that was one way of finding out that they'd lost their jobs. Still a lot of questions about the direction that Elon Musk will take that platform in. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Let's move on, though, shall we, Gemma, to the Times next, because the new Prime Minister has given them an interview, and he says lots of different things, doesn't he? So what have you picked out from that interview?
Well, I felt pretty cross reading this interview. He's basically saying, as we all know, the economy here in Britain is in a bit of a state. Then he goes on to say, look, the state can't fix all your problems. And I'm like, the state caused them, you know. And this is coming from somebody, the party who is supposed to be fiscally conservative. And actually, we've got this big deficit. Let's have a look at, like, for instance, the Brexit divorce bill, which people like Sunak said wouldn't exist. 42 billion. You know, we've lost 32 billion on lost taxes, also due to a massive trade hit. But also, he's kind of saying, look, he's cushioning us up for more austerity, which we've just had constantly. And, like, if our public services don't work, but we're paying taxes, I think there will come a point where people are like, hang on a minute, this just doesn't work anymore. You've got workers across the board in the public sector going on strike. You've got, for instance, doctors, porters, all the health workers in the NHS having had a 20 to 30% wage cut over the last 10 years. How much more of their fiscal irresponsibility can we take the blow for? He could do things like extend the windfall tax to raise £4 billion. He could end non-dom status and fine £3.2 billion. I think this is a real puff piece, and I just thought it was a load of gaslighting.
Well, it's interesting because he may pick up some of those policies potentially in this budget. We don't know yet, do we? And Dawn, what do you make of this? Because he's saying, isn't he, that he admits that trust in the party was damaged under Liz Truss, and his line seems to be, if I'm open and honest, say, look, this is the situation. We do have to make some tough decisions, but his argument is if the public sees that we're being fair, they might understand that why they have to go through this pain. Do you think that some people will see it like that, or will some people feel like Gemma does?
I think, well, I mean, obviously a lot of people will feel like Gemma. A lot of people are thinking, look, something's got to work. We are where we are with this situation, so let's give them an opportunity to, as Gemma pointed out, put right the wrongs that have happened recently. This is Rishi Sunak is very much channeling his idol Margaret Thatcher, isn't he? It's saying, you know, she infamously said that, you know, the more you rely on the state, the more the state will use and abuse you. And he's saying you can't rely on the state to do everything. He's also, the thing is, this is thousands of words, Anna, in this interview. And it's very homely. It's about how he's got the kids and the Labrador at number 10 Downing Street, while Jeremy Hunt's got number 11, etc., etc. But what he doesn't talk about is the tax cuts. He's very, very evasive on what he's going to do with the national insurance, with pensions, with VAT. He's saying, wait till the budget, which is happening on the 17th of November, isn't it, coming up very soon now. He's saying, but the basic message, as Gemma said, is sort of like, you know, I'm Rishi, trust me, I'm going to be honest. It's not going to be easy. We can't solve all the problems, but I'm going to have a go. Whether any of it will actually happen is another matter.
Yeah. And Dawn, I'm going to stick with you a bit longer because I know you want to talk about the Telegraph and it kind of ties into this. So lots of stories around about what might happen in that autumn statement. The latest suggestion, according to the Telegraph, they say pensions targeted in stealth tax rate. It's slightly complicated, isn't it? But basically hitting pensioners.
The very last word, the very last line on this in this piece, again, it's a lot of words involved. This is a fiendishly complicated situation, says an accountant. So I'm not an accountant or an economist, but basically, at the moment, the pension pot fund is set at £1 million. That has been frozen. It sounds a lot of money, but realistically, it's not. It's been frozen for 5 years, and now what Sunak and Hunt are doing is talking about extending that freeze for another 2 years. Now, it's like the triple lock pension thing. It normally rises in line with inflation or wages, or 2.5%, whatever, is the highest. So it's basically another extension on this pension pot freeze. Now, so basically it means if you have, say, just £100,000 over that £1 million in your pension pot, and you withdraw it either as a lump sum, you will end up then paying 55% tax on that. So that is the basic setup of what goes on. It is very, very complicated, and it depends on whether you are in the public sector or the private sector and how your pension fund is set up. But basically, it's a stealth tax because it's not literally an upfront, you are going to pay more tax. It is literally, it's not a headline number, it's buried down, and you really have to look into it and read into it as to how it will affect you. But the bottom line is that more and more pensioners were paying a lot of tax, up to 400 million in tax for more pensioners.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see as well whether that does actually get announced. But let's move on, Gemma, back to you with The Guardian. They lead with an interview with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres with a big warning ahead of COP, which kicks off tomorrow.
Yes, it does indeed. And of course, there's been quite a lot in the press about, will Sunak attend? Oh, Johnson's going. Oh, Sunak's changed his mind. But actually, overall, I think having a presence there does send the right message. I know people always go, oh, the big cavalcades, and I do agree. There's a lot of carbon used up just getting there. But these conversations they're desperately important. And the UN chief, who's called Antonio Guterres, he's quite well known for, he uses quite strong rhetoric, but anybody who is a climate scientist would agree with him that, if you like, the climate situation is, as Caroline Lucas said, in intensive care. What he wants is the global leaders of the developed world to look at making some pacts to assist the countries that, sadly, it's always the case, isn't it, the poorer countries who end up being a victim of climate climate change much more so. If you look at like Bangladesh and Pakistan, etc., some of the extreme weather situations that we've seen there that leads to mass migration. So he's saying the richer countries need to be looking at helping them deal with these extreme weathers specifically, but also, now, there couldn't be any larger warning class. And actually, Lula getting in Brazil is probably more beneficial than anything.
Okay, we must leave it there, but Gemma and Dawn, you'll be back again in the next hour, so I look forward to chatting again then. Thanks very much indeed.